Okay, so bear with me a little. I didn't eat today, and I'm drinking one of the Rockstar Super Sours vodka, blue raspberry. Holy shit, it's amazing drinks. I even let Yvonne have the first sip, and she was happy. Now today, I received Nostalgia in the mail. I ordered this off eBay. I've barely looked at it. I'm very happy. Um, Also, Wayne Gretzky book. Um, Wayne Gretzky craft card. Now, what's funny is I have some of these. These were available in craft peanut butter. So you'd open up your peanut butter, and under the usual piece of cardboard that's in there, they had these little coasters. I have a couple of these somewhere. I think it's Patrick Waugh that I have somewhere. I think I might have Messier too. And then this little everything you need to know about Gretzky, or he's got all of his hockey cards in here, and all of the things he's done. So like Gretzky's awards, all the awards he won, why he was the greatest. It's interesting. And then there's a Gretzky hologram. I have tons of those. And a Gretzky um, postage stamp. And then included were two Wayne Gretzky Topps cards from 1982. Now, somebody who's a card collector would say, well, those are common. Maybe, but I've never had one. I've never had a Topps card. I had the O-Pee-Chee card, but when I when I was a kid, I used to get my hockey cards and I would play with them on the floor. Now, I didn't play what other kids do, which is knockdowns. Knockdowns was the big game when I was a kid. And that's why 8 cards from the 80s are usually in shit condition, because everybody played knockdowns, which is you stand your cards up against the wall and your buddy throws his cards, and whatever cards he knocks down, he wins. He takes the cards from you. And then you go back and forth, and the next day you play it again. And we used to play it in the rain, we played it in the snow. I never played it, but I would have little hockey games, so I would make teams of players. It says right here Oilers, so I'd have all the Oilers on one side, all the Canucks on another, and I would play back and forth with them, using usually a dice for the puck. Sometimes I had an actual little mini puck from my table hockey table. But what happened was, because I was gripping them all in one corner, each card had, it was basically, this corner was bent. So every single card from this year until I think I stopped in '86, I had bent corners in every card. Um, Guys who got my cards off me would use like some kind of a really strong press to press that crease out. But if even if it was pressed in there and it looked fantastic, if you removed the card from that protective coating, the crease would be back. So I always thought that was kind of a dishonest thing for them to do, but it was their card. They got it from me, so I didn't care. But it's just one of those things that when I get a chance to get really nice cards, even if they're, and they don't have to be worth anything. It's just I only paid $20 for this altogether. So just for the memories alone, the '83 yearbook pays for itself. Okay, and it's interesting because there are a lot of articles in here. You have the Quebec League. Wayne Gretzky says his brother Keith is good enough to play. So there's Keith Gretzky. Ottawa's Jeff Vive was the runner-up for the OHL scoring race last season after scoring 151 points. Clearly Rick Vive's brother. Looks just like him. Scott Stevens is one of several Kitchener players who have a chance to jump into the NHL. And there's Scott Stevens up in the top there. Isn't that awesome? Highly regarded Kirk Muller, who played in Kingston last year at age 15, will be in franchise in Guelph. And there he is at the bottom. And there's Vive's brother in the middle. Has to be Vive's brother. If Michel Petit, upper left, and Paul Boudelier, upper right, return from pro camps to the Beavers, Saint Jean can look forward to a strong showing. Meanwhile, Laval will be led by Mario Lemieux, lower left, and Trois-Rivières will have scoring ace Claude Verret back in the lineup. Now, I love these pictures because Lemieux as a teenager, that's pretty awesome. His face really hasn't changed. The kid who's next to him has this look like, why am I next to Lemieux? I'm going to be next to who? What? No, I don't want to be next to Lemieux. It's just this is while they were in junior. That's insanity. That's absolute insanity. They have a QMJHL preview. They also have, let's see, Calgary will be Mike Vernon's home, but will he play for the Wranglers of the Flames? So there he is as a kid, Mike Vernon. Although Ken Yaremchuk was first-round draft pick of Chicago, Portland hopes he'll remain a junior, and there he is at the bottom. Some great 80s looks going on there. That's insanity. SWHL. This this is one of the joys of owning old magazines. And this is one of the reasons why when people are like, how does he remember all this? Oh, I don't need to remember Jack. All I need to do is make sure I've got as many of these magazines as possible and that I read them regularly. For instance, this is the year the Vancouver Canucks went to the Stanley Cup Final. Okay, this is the year that they went to the Stanley Cup Final. I'm going to go through their view on the Vancouver Canucks. And worthy of note here is check out Richard Brodeur here. Just check that out. That's amazing. Fantastic. Just as the St. Louis Blues advanced to the Stanley Cup Finals in their first 3 years of first 3 years in the National Hockey League, this thing's really kicking my ass. Because they were the Western Division representative, the rise of the Vancouver Canucks to Cup finalists in 81-82 must be taken for what it was. The result of 3 of the top 4 teams in the Campbell Conference falling by the wayside, which is what they used to call the Western Conference, Campbell Conference. I still think of it as the Campbell Conference and Prince of Wales Conference, but that's because I'm old. En route to being demolished in the final by the Islanders, and they were. It wasn't fair. Their 30-win, 33-loss, 17-tie regular season record, in fact, is infinitely more indicative of their strength than their qualifying for the final and their 290 total goals, a figure that ranked them 17th in the league. That's out of 21. 290 goals ranked you 17 out of 21. Chew on that one, boys and girls. Points out one of the major problems in an offensive-minded loop. That's not to say the Canucks will suddenly go back to being the postseason non-entity they were their first 12 years, when they went 0-for-5 in playoff series action. They do have some quality performers, starting with Richard Brodeur in goal, and for once, the club seems to have built up a measure of depth. Brodeur, now 30, came along so steadily in his second year as a Canuck that the club was willing to trade away the oft-injured Glenn Hanlon in return for some forward depth in the form of Tony Curry and Jim Nill. Yes, that Jim Nill. Brodeur was 20-18-2 with a pair of shutouts and a 3.35 goals against in 52 starts during the regular season, and as the playoff adage says, you win a lot with a hot goaltender. The Canucks, with Brodeur playing the role perfectly, won their way right into the final. He was 10-3 until running into the unbeatable Islanders, and still wound up the playoffs with a 2.700 goals against average in 17 games. Unfortunately for the Canucks, they didn't get the puck past the Islanders enough to take advantage of Brodeur's stingy net minding. When you take a glance down the Canucks lineup and note that Thomas Gradin, a center who would rather pass than shoot, led the club in goals with 37 and points with 86, it's not difficult to fathom that the Vancouver attack doesn't scare many opponents. 37 goals, 86 points, you got to do better than that. Just think of that in today's game. Think of that in today's game while I have a sip. A sip of awesome juice. Gradin usually centered Kurt Fraser, 67 points, and Stan Smeel, 78 points, putting most of the offense on one line. They were most effective in the playoffs as well, with Gradin leading the way with 19 points, Smeel collecting 18, and Fraser chipping in with 10. Kurt Fraser was a very good player and was underrated. In postseason play, only Ivan Boldarev, the number 2 center, and Lars Molin, a right winger/center, had more than Fraser with 11 apiece. Ivan Boldarev is a warrior. Other than that, the Canucks have a yeoman assemblage of forwards battling for ice time. At center, Ivan Hlinka popped in 23 goals in his NHL debut. He wasn't young, though. With Per-Olof Brassar, who's not returning, and Gary Lupul taking care of defensive duties. And when Gary Lupul's in charge of defensive duties, you got to be a little bit concerned. Lupul was more a two-way leaning towards offense guy than defense, but everybody in the 80s was pretty much anti-defense, so Tiger Williams, who slumped to 17 goals, and Darcy Rhoda, 20-20, 40 points in 51 games. are the veterans of the left wing, while rookie Mark Crawford saw service in 40 games. That's right, that Mark Crawford. Other possibilities for the position include Ottawa's Mo LeMay. And I have a subscriber who's, I believe, related to Mo LeMay, who scored 68 goals and 138 points in the Ontario League. Or the Canucks' second pick in the 82 draft, Yves Lapointe of Shawinigan. He never played a game for the Canucks that I know of. Once you get past Smeal, right wing has been a problem for the Canucks. But with Moline and Lupul capable of playing there, and the addition of Nil and Curry, who had 23 goals last year, and I like Tony Curry, I thought he was good. The position is deeper than it has ever been, and the Canucks are most excited by the prospects of having Swedish sensation Patrick Sundstrom on the right flank in the coming season. He finally signed in the offseason after an extensive period of courting. He ended up as a center. He played most of his career as a center, ended up in New Jersey in the Kirk McLean deal, but Sundstrom was a good player. Defense, too, is an area filled with capable NHL experience. Captain Kevin McCarthy rates as the best all-around blue liner and has had 45 points in the regular season before missing games with an injury. Injuries also cost the Canucks the services of Rick Lands, Yuri Bubla, Yuri Slager's dad. There's a reason that Slager didn't go by the name Bubla. You just have to look that up. And Anders Eldebrink for prolonged periods. Anders Eldebrink. If there was a more fun name to say of the Canucks back then, I don't know what it was. None of them even playing a half season last season. That put quite a load on Harold Snepps, who, outside of an errant pass from Mike Bossy stick that cost the Canucks the first game of the finals, was an outstanding postseason performer, as was Lars Lindgren, the Canucks' leading scorer among defensemen with 6 points in the playoffs. Lindgren was underrated. And contributing were Doug Howard and youngsters Neil Belland, who was never heard from again, Joe McDonnell, never heard from again, and Andy Schliebner, who had an iffy in and out of the NHL type career. The Canucks' top draft choices the past 2 seasons have been defensemen. Garth Butcher of Regina, who's expected to make the club this time around, and Sherbrooke's Michel Petit, a highly regarded rearguard who could force his way onto the roster but will probably benefit from another year in the junior ranks. Michel Petit played for a lot of teams. The Canucks should be improved. They should rise above the 500 mark. They didn't. But don't count on a return trip to the Stanley Cup Finals. Edmonton and Minnesota plan to make sure of that. Edmonton and Minnesota were joint holders of a lot of records. So, yeah, the Canucks draft choices that year were number 1, Michel Petit, 2, Yves Lapointe, left winger, 3, Sean Kilroy, goaltender, and that was 83, so I'm sure he heard Mr. Roboto a lot. Number 4, Taylor Hall, left wing out of Regina. Woohoo! The Canucks draft Taylor Hall. Number 5, Perry Proft out of Calgary. Number 6, Newell Brown. No, that's not the same. It's not the same Taylor Hall. I promise. Number 7, Don McLaren. 8, Al Raymond. No relation to Mason as far as I know. 9, Steve Driscoll. And 10, Sean Green. No relation to the former Blue Jay first baseman. I believe he's a first baseman. So, yeah, that's the Canucks. I have the Canucks roster here. You got Ron DeLorme there. Let's see what other names are on this list here that people would know. Not B.J. McDonald. Nobody would bother knowing who that is. In net, they had Wendell Young, who I don't think had played at that point, because Ken Ellicott was seen as the backup. Yeah, they traded away Glenn Hanlon, and in retrospect, we all kind of knew that was a mistake at the time. Yeah, and they get into the plus minus. They get into it quite a bit, actually. So it's almost the start of advanced stats. And there's Stan Smeal with the Canucks. And that's why I love getting old magazines. They're available on eBay. I do get the occasional one, such as this. And it's usually to fill in the years I don't have a recollection of owning. Not having a recollection doesn't mean I don't. It means that I'm like, I don't think I own that one. Buy. And then I get it and I go, oh, yeah, no, I've had this one. The 84 Hockey News Yearbook, I looked at the cover of it, and I'm like, okay, I had that one. Because it has Gretzky in the middle, of course, and Pete Peters off to the side. when he played for the Bruins. And I remember I had that book. I don't have it anymore. So it's one of those things I'm kind of kicking myself for, but it is what it is. So get ready for a walk down memory lane or two as we get ready for the playoffs. And I got a new hat today. In fact, I got two of them. Sorry, I keep hitting the computer because I'll blame that on the Rockstar vodka. And my other hat. This is just gorgeous. I am so happy that I can wear this Buffalo Slug hat the next time I wear my yellow Buffalo jersey to complete the ensemble of ugly. Because the Buffalo Slug is Buffalo's Flying V. And I may get into the faux pas that I feel teams have gone into with their jerseys. I may see if I can come up with 30 teams and 30 faux pas. And we'll see. All right, thanks for watching. There will be definitely more stuff coming up today. It's 4:15, so I'm going to see what's going on in the world of hockey today. I just got home at like half an hour ago, and yeah, it was a long 24 hours. If you're a patron, you know what I'm talking about, right? Right. So I've had a long 24 hours. I'm trying to relax a bit as I get ready for a couple or a few days off, depending on what happens with my schedule. And I'll be posting plenty regarding why the trade deadline was so quiet. I don't know why the Hockey News has that article. Why was the trade deadline so quiet? You had like, what, 3 sellers? Come on. All right. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you all again soon. And don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Always hit like and subscribe. I'm still seeing a very high percentage of people who are watching my videos and not subscribing. And I don't usually do that myself, so yeah, go ahead and hit subscribe. I know you want to.